She wanted to die, but she discovered this, the story that changed everything. There are nights when people simply give up, nights when silence feels louder than any scream. On that November 3rd, Sarah was in her room, alone, with a decision that seemed like it would be the last one she'd ever make. But that same night, she discovered a truth that not only saved her, but transformed her into someone unrecognizable. And that truth, it could completely change how you see your own life from now on. Sarah was 22 years old. Dark hair, eyes that once sparkled, now dimmed. She was the type of person who went unnoticed because that's exactly how she wanted it. Invisible. Because when you're invisible, no one can hurt you. It all started long before that November. It started when she was just 14 and heard her father say she was a failure. Not with those exact words, with that look, with that deafening silence that was worse than any insult. Sarah grew up believing something inside her was broken, that she was the problem, that if she simply disappeared, everyone would be better off. In high school, she was the quiet girl, the girl no one invited to parties, the girl who ate alone during lunch break, pretending it was a choice. The truth was she had chosen solitude because solitude was predictable. It was safe. When you're alone, no one can leave you. In college, things got worse. Sarah chose to study engineering, something her father had suggested, because in her heart she never believed she deserved to study what actually made her happy. Arts, drawing, creativity, things her father called childhood dreams. So she chose what she thought she deserved, what was correct. And every day at college was like walking a tightrope, hanging over an abyss. Her fingers trembled during exams. Her heart raced during presentations. The feeling was constant. You're going to fail. You always fail. Why do you even try? Her classmates seemed so confident, so casually sure of themselves, while Sarah calculated every word before speaking, planned every move, and still felt like she was doing everything wrong. Then came the relationship, a 3-year relationship that drained her like an empty well. Her boyfriend was controlling, not abusive in ways people would recognize. It was quieter than that. He controlled her friends, her money, even what clothes she wore. And Sarah let him do it because in her heart, she believed she didn't deserve better, that she should feel grateful someone would tolerate her. When he left her, it wasn't even dramatic. One day he just said there was someone prettier, more interesting, more everything. Sarah cried for a week, but the worst part wasn't the crying. It was the voice inside her whispering, he was right. You're not enough. You never were. The months that followed were a slow descent. First came the small signs. She stopped answering messages, stopped leaving the house on weekends, stopped eating properly. Then came the thoughts. Those thoughts that show up at 3 a.m. and don't go away. Thoughts that said terrible things about herself. Thoughts that suggested the only solution was to disappear. Sarah had tried telling someone once, told her mom she was depressed, that she had bad thoughts. Her mom, well-meaning but scared, simply said, everyone has a cross to bear. You need to be stronger. As if strength was a muscle she hadn't developed properly, as if depression was a choice she was deliberately making. So she stopped telling, stopped asking for help, stopped believing anyone could really understand. And in early November, when the semester got even more intense, when professors increased the pressure, when an important exam resulted in a low grade that confirmed all her fears about herself, Sarah simply broke. That November 3rd was the day she had planned. She had researched. She had left everything organized in her room because, even in despair, part of her worried about not causing trouble. She was lying in bed, staring at the white ceiling, feeling her heart beat slower. Her body was exhausted from crying. Her mind was exhausted from fighting. And in that exact moment when she was at the edge of the cliff, when darkness had finally won, something happened. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from a number she didn't recognize. A woman named Helena. Helena was a psychologist who had seen an old post from Sarah in a mental health community, just a post from a month ago where Sarah had written in veiled terms about her thoughts. Helena had reached out. The message was simple. Sarah, I saw your post. I'm not going to bore you with conventional talk, but I want you to know I heard you, and I want to help you. Sarah should have ignored it, should have deleted the conversation. But something about that message was different. There was no pity. There wasn't that tone of someone trying to fix you. It was just recognition. And Sarah, in that moment, craved recognition more than anything. Helena was a 57-year-old woman who had attempted suicide 3 times in her life. These were facts she revealed not because she wanted to seem experienced, but because she wanted to make it clear. She knew that territory. She had been in that dark room too, had felt that same despair, and she was still alive to tell the story. I'm not going to lie to you, Sarah, Helena had written. What you're feeling is real. The pain is real. And that doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're too strong to live a life you hate. Your survival instinct is in conflict with your will to end the suffering. That's why it's so hard. You don't want to die, Sarah. You want the pain to die. Those words stopped Sarah, really stopped her, because it was the first time in months someone had said something that made sense, that acknowledged that maybe the question wasn't about dying or living. Maybe it was about suffering or not suffering. And in that distinction, something small but real began to change inside her. Helena asked to talk by video call. Sarah wanted to refuse, but Helena had made it very clear. You don't need to put on makeup. You don't need to behave. Just show up. That's how people save themselves, by showing up, exactly as they are. When they connected by camera that night, Sarah saw an ordinary woman, not a motivational celebrity or someone who seemed to have their whole life figured out. It was someone who had suffered. You could see it in Helena's eyes. But there was also something more, a kind of light, a light that had been lit through all those darknesses. Helena presented a simple challenge. Sarah, I'm going to ask you something that might seem ridiculous, but trust me. She asked Sarah to go to a mirror. Sarah did it reluctantly, saw herself reflected, disheveled hair, pale skin, red eyes from crying. What she saw was a confirmation of everything she had thought about herself, a confirmation of why no one wanted her, why she was invisible, why she deserved to be alone. Now, Sarah, Helena said through the camera, I want you to say something. I'll say it first, and you repeat after me, okay? Sarah was confused, but nodded. Helena looked directly at the camera into her eyes and said, I see a woman who faced today. I see someone who's bleeding but still standing. I see a person worthy of love, exactly as she is right now. There was absolute silence. Sarah felt tears streaming down. Now you, said Helena, look at yourself in the mirror. Say exactly what I said. You can cry. You can scream, but say it. Sarah opened her mouth several times. No words came out. Helena waited, didn't push, just waited. And then finally, with her voice trembling, Sarah whispered, "I see a woman who faced today. I see someone who's bleeding but still standing. I see a person worthy of love, exactly as I am right now." In that moment, something broke inside her, but it wasn't her spirit. It was that glass wall she had built around herself for years. It was as if each word was a small crack in the glass that protected and imprisoned her simultaneously. "You know what the secret is, Sarah?" asked Helena. "The secret no one tells you. It's that self-compassion is revolutionary. In a world that constantly tells you you're not enough, telling yourself you're worthy of love, that's an act of rebellion. That's power. Real power. But there was more," Helena continued. "There's a truth I'm going to reveal to you. A truth you need to understand about the pain you're feeling." Sarah listened, her eyes still wet. "The pain you feel isn't a sign you should die, Sarah. It's a sign you're alive. It's a sign you still have hope inside you. Because you know why? Because you're not missing nothing. You're missing everything your life could be." Helena took a deep breath. "You're depressed not because you're weak. You're depressed because you're too strong to accept a life that doesn't fit you. Your soul is banging against the walls of the place where you've put yourself. And that pain is your soul asking for help. It's you asking for help from yourself." Sarah felt her heart racing. It was as if the words were deactivating false alarms she had triggered in her mind. Change, Sarah, starts with a choice. It's not a big choice. It's the choice to show up tomorrow, to try, to allow someone to help you, to abandon the idea that you need to be perfect to deserve happiness. You deserve happiness now, exactly as you are. And in that moment, in that conversation with a stranger who suddenly wasn't a stranger anymore, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in months. She felt hope, small, fragile, but real, like a candle lit in the darkness. The next few days weren't magical. Sarah woke up still feeling the weight. Despair still knocked at the door from time to time. But now there was something different. Now there was hope. Helena helped her find a real therapist, a flesh and blood therapist who could help her long term. Sarah started treatment. At first she resisted every session. Her fear of being judged was still very strong, but the therapist, like Helena, had learned something crucial. Compassion changes people. Truth, told with love, transforms. Sarah left engineering and switched to arts. When she told her mum, she expected an argument. Instead, her mum, hearing the truth about how Sarah had suffered silently for years, started crying. She realized she had failed to listen to her daughter, and for the first time, mother and daughter began having real conversations. Sarah came out of isolation, not suddenly, but gradually. She started attending a support group for people with depression. She met other women who had thought about suicide too, and she discovered something revolutionary. She wasn't the only one. She wasn't weird. She was human. 6 months later, Sarah was creating art again. Not the technical art that engineering demanded, but real art. Art that came from her heart. Art that spoke about the darkness she had known, but also about the light she had found. But the deepest truth Sarah discovered, it was this. The night she was in the worst place, when she was at the edge of the cliff, when darkness had won, there was one thing she hadn't considered. She hadn't considered that despair was temporary, that depression had deadlines, just like any other illness. That if she had just waited one more day, if she had received a message from a stranger, if she had allowed someone to hear her, everything would change. The question wasn't, should I live or should I die? The question was, am I willing to wait and see what tomorrow might bring? And when you put it that way, when you reframe the question like that, something changes. Because every morning is an opportunity to change the answer. Every morning is a chance to try again. Every morning is a yes to life. Today, Sarah is 26 years old. Her eyes sparkle again, not because life became perfect. Life is still hard sometimes. There are still days when sadness visits her, but now she knows how to deal with it. Now she knows sadness doesn't define her future. That one bad night doesn't mean a bad life. Sarah works as a freelance artist. She created a social media account to share about mental health. But more important than that, she responds to other people who are in the same situation she was in. She's the Helena for someone else. Because what you receive, you pass forward. And you know what's the most beautiful part? Sarah created a series of drawings based on her journey. Drawings that talk about despair, hope, transformation. When people see them, many cry, because they recognize their own story there. And when they recognize it, something changes. They realize they're not alone, that there are others who understand. Now for you watching this video, you might be anywhere on this journey. You might be in the worst place. You might be thinking there's no way out. You might be feeling the only solution is to disappear. I want you to know something. The same thing Helena told Sarah. You don't want to die. You want the pain to die. And there's a huge difference between those two things. The pain you feel, it's not permanent. It's not forever. It's a visitor, not a resident. And visitors eventually leave. The despair you feel, it comes from a part of you that still believes life should be better, that you should be happy. And you know why? Because you're worthy of happiness, exactly as you are right now. With all your imperfections, fears, and insecurities, you're worthy. There are people around you who love you. Even if you don't believe it, even if you feel invisible, there are people who would wait for you, who would walk with you through that despair, if you just let them. Change starts with one step, just one. It could be calling someone, it could be looking for a therapist, it could be saying no to the life you hate, and yes to trying something new. It could be choosing to show up tomorrow. Sarah discovered that power wasn't in not feeling pain. Power was in feeling the pain and choosing to live anyway. Power was in looking at herself in the mirror with all her imperfections and saying, "You deserve love." And that thing she discovered, that big truth, it wasn't some magic formula, it wasn't some secret technique, it was simple. It was just recognition. Recognition that she was valuable. Recognition that her life matters. Recognition that there are people who want to help her if she just lets them. That's the discovery that changes everything. Because when you truly believe you're worthy of love, that your life has value, that your suffering doesn't define your future, everything changes. You can't stay the same. If this story touched your heart, if you saw a piece of yourself in Sarah, I want you to do 3 things. First, if you're having suicidal thoughts, please call someone. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Call a therapist, call a friend. Don't face this alone. Second, share this story with someone you believe might be suffering. You don't know, but that person might be at the edge of the cliff, waiting for a message from someone who cares. And third, subscribe to this channel for more stories that save lives. Remember, you deserve to live, not a mediocre life, but a real life, a true one, full of colors, even with the shadows. Show up tomorrow, and then the day after, because every day is a new chance to choose life. You're worthy, you're valuable, you matter. Thank you for being here with me on this journey. See you in the next video.